Don't commit suicide before watching this video. By the way, for anyone out there who must be thinking, hey, suicide's not funny. Yeah, I know, okay? Because I've kind of been there. Not that I'm a suicide survivor. And I've never been literally at the point of fucking taking a razor blade to my wrist, which, by the way, from what I understand, that is like one of the worst ways to kill yourself. Don't do it that way. Or you don't do it at all. That's the whole point of this video. But it seems like hanging is the method of choice. But anyway, look, I'm not going to get into that. And I don't want to make light of it, of course. But we need humor. We need humor. And if your suicidal ideation is anything like mine, where it's a matter of perspective to a large degree, I'm hoping this video is for you, and or for anyone who wants to understand it, okay, and how you can go from highs to lows. And I think I might be bipolar, at least according to Bipolar Disorder for Dummies. And I'm not one of these hypochondriacs who thinks, I don't want to get into all the details of when I discovered the hard way that it looks like I might be bipolar. But nonetheless, it was manic depression, and I've always kind of had that. And I never knew that manic depression and bipolarity were one and the same. Long story short, I was going through it was like a week of, or actually a couple of weeks of manic thoughts, of racing thoughts, and just hypomania, and which is, by the way, hypomania is something, if you've experienced this, it's fun for a while, but then after a while it's tiring. And I wouldn't say that right now this is a hypomanic state fully. I think I could pull out of this if I really started doing the deep breathing and got myself together. But I kind of want to let it ride for this video. So for anybody who might have this, you could maybe relate, and you could be like, yeah, I see that. And by the way, that's one of the other ways that I kind of discovered, like when I kind of realized, when I stumbled into, holy shit, I think I might be manic depressive, and I started watching videos of people who had it, I was like, that's yeah. And again, I'm not one of these people who thinks that, I've always thought things like OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and attention deficit disorder, and I didn't even know that there's attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I actually have a couple of relatives that clearly are diagnosed with that, and they've been diagnosed with that, and they are clearly that. I've always thought that those things were bullshit. I've always thought that this country just has maladies du jour. It's almost like a fucking menu. Like, hey, take your pick. And I'm one of those people who always thought that until you experience it yourself, and it becomes something that you can't even control. And that's when you're like, oh shit. And thanks to nowadays things like Google, you could look it up and you're like, oh damn. When you start reading, you're like, oh shit, that's yeah. The grandiose, at least for me, the things that I was like, holy shit, this is definitely what I'm going through. It's the grandiose thinking, the irritabilities, and the suicidal ideations and stuff. And there's different types of bipolarity. I'm not a psychologist, and I don't even have a bachelor's degree. Okay, but there's apparently bipolar 1, which I think is the manic people. And I think, if anything, I think I'm more cyclothemic than bipolar 1. That's the extremely manic people. Those are the ones that usually get Baker acted and shit like that. And I've known people that have gone through that. And then there's bipolar 2, which are the depressive types. Those are the ones that are usually very susceptible to suicide. And then you have the cyclothemics, which I might be there. And then I think there's 2 other categories, which I forgot that they mentioned in the book. But bottom line is, the message that I really want to get out there to anybody who might be watching this video because, yeah, you actually are thinking suicide and stuff like that. In my case, it comes and goes. Just remember that there, and especially if your life is pretty good. If you're honest with yourself, because that's the thing with me, I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, my life is, I'm not a millionaire, okay, but my life is great. I have nothing to complain about. Especially when I look at the news and I look at other people's lives and stuff. I can only imagine the lives of people throughout other parts of the world, like the crushing abject poverty, anyone who is in a situation of human trafficking right now, nowadays. I can't even relate to that. But if you're one of these people, like myself, who is suffering from what I would consider first world problems. And it's a matter of perspective. By all means, don't fucking kill yourself. Like, and by the way, the title of this video is sort of in honor of Anthony Bourdain, because he wrote an article called Don't Eat Before Reading This. But this video is not in honor of Anthony Bourdain, because my family is Cuban, and from what I understand, I've never really watched his show, which I already forgot the name of his show. It's No Borders or No Regulations or something like that. Fucking No Reservations or whatever it was. It's a cooking show. I just knew, like, I saw, oh wow, the guy committed suicide. It was like a really big deal, especially after Kate Spade, another person who I never even knew existed until that. But Anthony Bourdain supposedly had done a video where he went to Cuba, and he's, from what I understand, I don't even want to get into that, but he was an apologist for the Castro regime. And oof, my hypomania will go off the fucking charts if I start thinking about that. Because the thing is, my mother, not my ancestors, not my great-great-grandparents, and all with the oppression Olympics that we're going through in this country, how people just want to identify with some fucking oppressive group when they fucking live very good lives. So it was my mother who was put in a forced labor camp by the Castro regime back in the late 60s. Hosed down with pesticides on a daily basis. Or at least, yes, I think if I'm not mistaken, on a daily basis, just to humiliate her. Oh my God, how and why people still find it in their hearts to make excuses for the Castro regime is beyond fucking me. And yet, look, I'm bringing that up because of my mother, a woman who went through, lost everything. And by the way, my parents weren't even rich. They were barely middle class in Cuba. They lost everything. And not when my mother was young and she could start new. No, my mother had left Cuba like basically at her late 30s. By the time she got to this country, she was in her 40s with nothing. And she still found a reason to live. And so now I'm going to tie it back into that. And the last thing I'm going to say about Cuba is, for all you pseudo-intellectual pinheads, for all the Noam Chomskys and all the Sean Penns and the Oliver Stones out there, and you guys love to talk about the literacy rates, you never talk about the suicide rates in Cuba. Oh my, look, I want this video to go viral, so I'm gonna hold back the insults and the rage that I feel for you people. And that's not healthy. By the way, this is how, for anybody out there who might be bipolar, maybe you're relating, you're like, holy shit, that's exactly what I go through. And by the way, when I've had my suicidal ideations, it wasn't because of sorrow, it wasn't because I'm so sad. No, it was because of rage and frustration when I look at the way the world actually works. And that was the thing. This morning, I saw a really good article about suicide. And it was, but of course, that article was written by someone who, at the very end of the article, they start talking about God. And the article was a great article. And it talks about the meaninglessness of life. And it's on the Federalist. Let me see if I can actually pull this up while I'm just rambling. And I don't want to make this too long. Anyway, I can't. It's for whatever reason, my computer is not down. There we go. Drudge Report. Let me see if I can find this. The bottom line is this. For anyone who is even thinking of suicide, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm jumping from one thing to another. This is what happens when you have the hypomania. And this high that I have, it's in direct contrast to the lows. So again, if you're on that brink of suicide because of your feelings, wait it out. Especially if you have kids, for Christ's sake. Not that I'm religious, I'm as atheist as you can get. I grew up Catholic though, so I can relate to all that religious nonsense. And that was the thing about that article. that they really got, I mean, you would think that that article was written by a philosophy major that just specialized in Friedrich Nietzsche and talking about the meaninglessness of life. And I was like, yes, I was with that article the whole way through, until in the end they're like, that's why you need God. Like, what? No, you don't need that. What you need, and look, I think this is at the very core of this video, what you really need is to realize that as difficult as life is, and it is difficult, and as harsh as it can be, and it will continue to be, and with all the violence and the pain and the death and the struggle that is just, it's baked into the equation of matter and energy. It's just the way it works. Just forget about humans. Look at Hawaii, look at Guatemala, and the volcanoes over there just erupting and just destroying. That's life. That's nature. You can't even blame that like on politics. That's just the world doing its thing. That's because all of life is made up of matter and energy. And matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes constantly. That's why they say that the only constant in life is change. And it's how we deal with that change, how we deal with everything that comes at us, the inevitable, inescapable adversity that is going to come at you. If not every day, every week. Even if you live in a first world country and you got all your bills paid for and everything is fucking set for you, something's gonna fucking happen. Give it time. Just fucking look at your watch, set it. Something's gonna fucking happen. You'd be committing suicide all the fucking time. Or you'd be trying to, or whatever. The bottom line is, it's how you deal with this life. It's like that saying, life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you react to it. So please, for anyone out there who's seriously thinking about committing suicide, and if you can't afford to go to a therapist, because they're fucking expensive as shit. I remember when I sort of discovered that I think I might be bipolar, and I tried looking for help. I was like, wow. And they'll talk you to fucking death, by the way. They will fucking be like, well, you can't figure this out in a day. It's going to take a couple of sessions. You fuck that shit. I fucking $150 an hour. Yeah, before you know it, you're mortgaging your fucking therapy. Take the time to get with your thoughts. Emotions are a byproduct of your thoughts. Look, I myself need to follow my own advice. I need to relax. This video needs to come to a fucking end because I'm just rambling. If you're there, feel free to leave comments, and I can only hope I have the time to maybe address comments and stuff like that. I can relate, man. I've been there, man or woman or transgender, whatever. I don't want to even fucking get into the politics of all this shit. Life is worth living. I'm gonna try to end it on that. Let me see if I can start bringing down the airplane here. Life is worth living, especially if you have children. Do your damnedest to get over yourself and try to rein it in for your kids at the very least. And unless, of course, you're terminally ill, I could do a whole other video on that because my mother died of cancer. And there was a time where even her oncologist, who I thought was just milking her chemotherapy for all it was worth, even he was like, hey, look, bro, you gotta say goodbye. Okay, and so there's a time and place for that. And only you know, for people out there who are seriously thinking of suicide, only you would know. But assess the reasons. And if they're emotional, if it's a matter of perspective, wait. You're going to feel better. Life will get better before it gets worse. And it just keeps recycling itself that way. And anyway, I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.